Welcome to Research Bites with Learned CPD, where we break down educational research into easy to digest bite-sized chunks. My name is Lucinda Pole, and today I will be talking about growth mindset, specifically focusing on the work of Carol Dweck and her book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. So, where did the concept of growth mindset come from? Professor Carol Dweck is from the University of Stanford, and she first introduced the term. She was a psychology professor whose main work was in the areas of personality, motivation, and child development. As part of her research on personality and motivation, she was investigating how students respond to really hard, challenging tasks. What she did was she brought children into a room one by one, and in front of them was a really difficult task that would be virtually impossible for them to complete. She noticed a complete contrast in how students responded to being given this task. So some exclaimed, "I love a challenge," and literally rubbed their hands with glee. Others responded, "Oh, I was hoping I'd learn something from this," and persevered and persisted even when they were failing. And some showed a bit of interest, tried for a bit, and then completely gave up. And others just avoided it totally. What was interesting is that what Carol Dweck found was that how these students responded had nothing to do with their ability, but had everything to do with their mindset. And so the term was coined. In Carol Dweck's early research, those students who, when presented with a difficult task, gave up or didn't try, were displaying what she called a fixed mindset. They didn't feel like they could do it. They didn't believe that their efforts would yield any reward. Those who welcomed the challenge and persevered and demonstrated grit possessed what she called a growth mindset. They didn't fear failure. They enjoyed hard or difficult tasks and saw them as an opportunity to learn. The idea of growth mindset really is that brain and natural talent are just the starting point for success. No one, I think, is suggesting that natural intellect has nothing to do with it, or that anyone can be whatever they want to be, which I think is sometimes how growth mindset is portrayed. But research shows that only about 25% of a person's achievement or success can be attributed to their innate intellectual ability, or IQ. 75% is down to the psychosocial skills, their beliefs, their perseverance, the effort, the persistence, the grit, the self-control. All of these are considered characteristics of a growth mindset. On the slide, you can see a range of characteristics that are associated with growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So what does a growth mindset correlate with? I think the first thing to note, more than anything, is we're talking about correlations, not causation. So we need to be mindful of the fact that research here isn't telling us that having a growth mindset causes better grades, but somehow the two are linked. Research has shown that pupils with a growth mindset have, as we said, achieved higher grades, have better well-being, and are protected against stereotype threat. There are also other things that it's associated with, kind of going on further into life, so kind of they tend to be more successful later on in life. I just thought I would put this up because I think it does sort of summarize what mindset theory is about, and also some of the more nuanced things. So let me read it out just in case someone's listening. Mindset theory is a theory about responses to challenges or setbacks. It is not a theory about academic achievement in general and does not purport to explain the lion's share of variance in grades or test scores. The theory predicts that mindset should be associated with achievement, particularly among young people who are facing challenges. And I think that is really important. I do think that it's really important to face some of the criticisms that growth mindset has faced recently. And there are problems with it. It's not the silver bullet that I think some people see it as. So first of all, it is more nuanced than it seems. It's not really about effort. As we've seen, it draws upon a wide range of psychological phenomena. It's more about how people persist in the face of adversity than creating academic high achievers. It arose from something called attribution theory. When you fail, how do you attribute that failure? So is it something that's within or out of your control? So that's where growth mindset came from. And attribution theory is a well-known theory in psychology. And then considers a wide range of factors that might influence those attributions. And it is often simplified down. And this leads to what we call a false growth mindset. So this is the idea that just saying you have a growth mindset doesn't actually mean you have one. So just saying something doesn't actually mean you believe it or that it will change your behavior. And kids pick up on this. So they say, I have a growth mindset, because they know that's what we want to hear. And they also see that growth mindset is good and a fixed mindset is bad. And at this point, we then start to label our children. Now, I have some issues around labeling kids as anything, as it starts to introduce bias, but it's also the good old Pygmalion effect. The fact that the other day, a trainee teacher was telling me she'd done a pop quiz to find out who had fixed and growth mindsets in her class. And that was all. She just did a pop quiz. Unfortunately, the next day, the school did an assembly on growth mindset and how having a fixed mindset was a bad thing. And she said she could just see the crestfallen faces of her students who'd identified as a fixed mindset. So perhaps we do need to be a bit more careful about the messages we give about mindset, as telling kids one is good and the other is bad, and what they are will not change attitudes or behaviour overnight. So also in adolescence, taking risks where there might be social consequences, e.g. fear of ridicule, looking stupid, may have nothing to do with mindset and everything to do with neurobiological responses. Context also really matters. You might feel really positive about music, but not maths, or in my case, the other way around. You may be influenced by your peers. Research has shown that their attitude influences yours. You might be influenced by the teacher. You might be influenced by your parents. We're all a bit growth mindset sometimes, and we're all a bit fixed mindset sometimes. There's no way around that. So to say you're one or the other, it's too black and white. It's much, much more nuanced. Finally, there are some methodological issues with the growth mindset research that is out there. First of all, and most importantly, is the replicability of it. There are so many studies looking at growth mindset, and many of them do not replicate Dweck's original findings. At this point, it is quite difficult to say why. It could be due to the way that growth mindset is measured, or it might be due to the multifaceted nature of the concept, and therefore it's difficult to control the various variables. Where variables are highly controlled, we find positive results. Where research reflects the real world and there's less control, the results are clear cut. And this just poses a methodological challenge for us. So it makes growth mindset very difficult to actually research. Referring back to context, interventions may work in some contexts with some children, but teasing out what bits are working and why may also be difficult. So growth mindset, it's not the silver bullet, and it does have some real issues that we need to be aware of. So what can you do? Where can you take this? As I say, we don't want to be just kind of going, have a growth mindset and telling kids that's what they should say, because that's not going to change their behavior. We need to model growth mindset. We need to model the characteristics that we're really keen to see in our children. So that can be done in the classroom. First of all, you could role model risk-taking and failure. And I think that is really important. Kids need to know that it's okay to fail, and that's a learning point. Praise the skills and the qualities that you want to see in pupils, and you want pupils to repeat. Okay, so that bit about praise in growth mindset is really interesting in Carol Dweck's theories, and I think there is something to be said there. Create a safe learning environment. So you as a teacher need to create an environment where it's okay to take risks, to fail, to see failure as a learning process. And that will, when I spoke to young people doing my master's, that's exactly what I found. Creating a safe environment allows them to have a much more growth mindset. They don't want to do that in a school, in a classroom where they feel judged. Create opportunities for personal reflection where they can look at what they're doing and learn from it, where they're making mistakes, where they're doing well, and increase those strengths and work on the things that they're finding more difficult. And that really is thinking about how you give feedback to students. Choose those words carefully. You know, if you tell them they're a failure and they're useless, that's what they're going to believe. But if you tell them that, you know, their mistakes are an opportunity to learn and how to do that, and that go back to scaffolding, that would be probably very helpful. So my thoughts on growth mindset: it describes a wide range of qualities that we have to some extent or another, and these are influenced by a wide range of factors, both in our wider world and in the context at any given time. We need to create opportunities for pupils to practice growth mindset strategies without explicitly pointing this out, and these are some of those ideas that you can do. So it doesn't, just because it's been criticised doesn't mean to say it's worthless, but talking about growth mindset in the classroom is clearly just not enough. And it, as I say, it probably isn't that silver bullet education is looking for. There are some references for you. I hope that you found this video useful. Don't forget to sign up to our mailing list. The link is below to be the first to get your hands on our LearnEd Research Bites blogs and new courses. And of course, you can visit the LearnEd website to find out more about our free and paid for professional development courses for teachers. Thank you and goodbye.